Will democracy survive the next couple of years?
And essentially, we are the same.
And there are so many needs that Minnesota has.
What people are saying they need right now.
Access to democracy is made possible in part by a donation from Firefly Credit Union. Firefly is the new name of U.S. Federal Credit Union, which has proudly served the financial needs of the greater Twin Cities community since 1925. At Firefly, we guide our members forward and give them the power to chase dreams by delivering the financial solutions they need to get ahead. From checking accounts to mortgages, we'll light the way. We are Firefly Credit Union, and this is life illuminated. By Thomson Reuters, providing legal professionals with intelligence, technology, and human expertise they need to find trusted answers. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And Dr. Charles Crutchfield of award-winning Crutchfield Dermatology in Eagan. Acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians, a Minnesota native who trained at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Crutchfield personally treats all patients and states that experience counts and quality matters. Crutchfield Dermatology, look good, feel great, with beautiful skin.
Welcome. Access to Democracy returns. Alan Miller here. And we have a first-time guest, a very interesting gentleman, Ted Flaum, who is of late the CEO of the St. Paul Jewish Federation. And Ted, welcome.
Thank you.
So, question I have for you. Well, why don't you give us some background first, and then I'll ask you.
So I've been working in nonprofit organizations for 31 years. I remember that because that's how long I've been married. And I've worked with some incredible organizations. I've been very, very fortunate. I got a master's degree in social work from the USC, University of Southern California, focusing on community organization, planning and administration, which allowed me to be trained on how do you run a nonprofit organization. And then I jointly got a master's degree from Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, in Jewish communal service. So specifically, not only working in nonprofits, but how do you work within the Jewish community in their nonprofit settings.
You've actually been in nonprofits all over the country.
Yeah, again, it's one of the things I've really enjoyed about my career. I started off right after graduate school working for the Jewish Federation of Greater New Orleans. I was there for 6 years, held a variety of positions there, from fundraising to planning to community relations. And then I got hired to be the campaign director of the Jewish Federation in Las Vegas. I was with them for a short period of time, but I lived in Vegas for 14 years and was fortunate enough to work for a number of different organizations, including the United Way of Southern Nevada, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Boys Town. And then I was contacted by the Jewish Federation here to see if I would be willing to take on the position of the campaign director, basically doing financial resource development for the Federation here, which I did for approximately 5.5 years until I was hired to be the CEO of the Jewish Family Service in St. Paul, which was actually a beneficiary agency of the Federation. And then recently I was hired to come back to the Federation to serve as its CEO.
And you just became CEO a few months back.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. But who's counting?
Who's counting?
Now, it's very interesting to me. There are a lot of people who spend their lives trying to establish themselves and make money, more money, or politicians who want to get their name certainly well known and make money at the same time. But there is a certain cadre of individuals who start out working with nonprofits and who work with nonprofits and civic associations their entire life, and it's dedicated to helping people rather than to really benefiting themselves financially. You happen to be one of those people. I find that very unique very, very certainly worthy of discussion. So where did you draw the line here? Say, I want to work with people and nonprofits rather than become a tycoon.
Well, part of it was growing up with a strong Jewish identity and Jewish values. And one of those values is the concept of tikkun olam, which is repairing the world. And there's an idea there that every individual has a role in a way of improving the world. And that really spoke to me. The idea of being of service or in service resonated with me. And much to my parents' chagrin, who wanted me to become an accountant or a lawyer. But it's been extremely rewarding, and my parents said, this is a field that you will never make a living in. And look, money was not it, but here's the thing that I've really gained from these 30 plus years. I am surrounded every day by the most incredible people. I'm either surrounded by generous donors who are giving of their financial resources. They're philanthropic. They also believe in tikkun olam, and the way they do it is through philanthropy. And if I'm not surrounded by donors, I'm surrounded by volunteers who are giving of their time. And so every day I'm constantly interacting with these incredible people who also we share the same values. We're going about it in different ways, but we are working together, and we improve our communities, we improve the world, we change people's lives. And
So you
it's
are
just been
people,
rewarding.
and it's fair to say, who are rich in qualities that escape a lot of other people.
Yeah, I think most people have those qualities. Often it's just not inviting them to participate or introducing them to the opportunities to make a difference, because at the end of the day, when people look back at their lives, they want to know that they've made a difference, that they've contributed to something beyond themselves.
Most people, I think, feel that way, yes. But there's still the drive of some people to, make as much money as they can and to build themselves financially, et cetera. And the person who has done what you have done for all their life says, I will take care of my family. I will do as well as I am going to do. But my satisfaction comes from within, as you say, tikkun olam, from doing what I can to make this a better society. And that's a very unique type of individual, and certainly one that we could use more of in this society, in this country. What's the mission of the St. Paul Jewish Federation?
So the mission of the Federation is to, in a nutshell, help create a strong, vibrant Jewish community locally while supporting and connecting Jews here with Jews around the world, in Israel, and wherever Jews are in need. And we do that through engaging our local Jewish community, both on a volunteer basis as well as on a philanthropic basis, so that we raise money from the local Jewish community, and then we allocate it to local Jewish organizations as well as national and international Jewish organizations.
And one of the things I noted on your website is that you want to help the most vulnerable people. And that's not restricted to just Jews.
Right.
That's the most vulnerable people in society.
Yes.
And
One of the things, when I was the CEO of Jewish Family Service, I was very proud that the majority of the clients that we served at Jewish Family Service, which, as I said, is a beneficiary agency of the Federation, the majority of the people we served were not Jewish. And it would not be unusual to walk into our lobby and find someone wearing a kippah or a head covering, sitting next to a woman wearing a hijab. And we had a large number of Muslim clients. We served a lot of immigrants and refugees, people who are on the lowest scale of the economic scale. And again, very, very rewarding. And I'm delighted to have had the opportunity and knowing that the Federation helps to provide that.
And we, over the 20 years that we've been doing this show, we've had a lot of religious leaders on the show of various ethnicities, certainly Muslim, Christian, Dr. Gary Ryerson, Jewish, Steve Hunnigs, etc. They basically all have said the same thing, that they really want to make the world better. They want to help their own, but they want to help others also, not regardless of religion and ethnicity, but really just to help the people who need the help the most.
Yeah.
So there's an organization in Minnesota which brings together all those people, is there not?
Well, there are a number of organizations that brings people together. I think you mentioned Steve Hunnigs, who is the executive director of the JCRC, Jewish Community Relations Council.
Steve's been here many times.
Right, and he's just a great colleague and friend, and I'm very glad, again, very proud that the JCRC, the organization that he leads, receives significant funding from the St. Paul Jewish Federation. So I look at Steve as a partner in our missions of improving the world, of bringing people together for better understanding, and to further both of our organization's missions.
Now, fundraising means solicitation of individuals over the phone or by mail, and it also includes running some events. In fact, when we met, it was at a breakfast where Al Franken was the featured speaker a few months back, and I don't know, you must have had 1,000 people there if I had to take a guess.
Yeah, so that was a fundraiser for the Jewish Family Service, and Senator Franken was very gracious to agree to be our keynote speaker. So the way the Federation raises money is really to talk about values. We are a value-based organization. A lot of fundraising is more transactional, so that you buy a ticket to a fundraising event and you get something more tangible. When we do fundraising, the ideal model is we sit down one-on-one with individuals and talk about values and what's important to them, and talk about the Federation mission, and see, with all the things that we do, with all the people's lives that we touch, with all the organizations that we support, is there something there that resonates with the potential donor? And I look at donors not just as donors, but really investors and partners in trying to, again, further our mission and accomplish what we want to do, and see where that resonates with that donor.
And of course, you have been doing this all around the country for all these different organizations.
Yep.
And the St. Paul Federation is now one of the biggest. Are there particular benefactors, corporate or otherwise, who are particularly generous?
So the majority of our funding comes from individuals. We are just starting to build relationships more and more with foundations and corporations. But I'll tell you, the Bremer Foundation has always been very supportive of the Jewish community, whether it was at Jewish Family Service and for the Federation. They were very instrumental in funding programs such as our Kosher Meals on Wheels program that the Federation again funds and the JFS administers. We also have individual entrepreneurs or sole priorities that have support us. But most of our donors actually do come from individuals, and that's true nationally, where the majority of philanthropic dollars comes from individuals, much more than from corporations or even from foundations. And it goes back to that relationship building.
And of course, some of what you do has to do with events that you sponsor.
Yes. Right. So
now, I know you have a couple of events coming up, so let's talk about them. And I think we can bring up on screen for the people who are viewing a couple of those events. And here we have the Big Bash, which is Sunday, November 3rd, right around the corner based on this interview. And what is that?
So the Big Bash is an opportunity where the Federation is bringing the Jewish community together. All of our partners, our agencies, we have 16 agencies that are going to be joining us in coming together and we are bringing in a wonderful a cappella group called 613. They're a Jewish group from
613?
613, which represents the 613 mitzvot or commandments that are found in the Torah, and that's where they derive that name from. And they're a fun, upbeat, young, energetic a cappella group. They have some wonderful videos that people can go to the YouTube and take a look at, and it's going to just be a wonderful, fun, and family-friendly event. So it's not just for adults, it's for children. We are encouraging families to bring their children and get to know what the community is like, and it's open to all. So
that's Sunday, November 3rd at the Temple of Aaron, which is on Mississippi River Boulevard in St. Paul, and that'll be one of your upcoming fundraisers. Now, I know there's another one that you're talking about at the moment. It's called the Great Big St. Paul Challah Bake.
Yeah.
What is that?
So this is the third time we're doing it. So there's actually an International Challah Bake Day, which is November 14th, and communities around the world are coming together to make challahs. Challah is this bread that we usually eat on Friday nights, so we're doing this on a Thursday night, so people can prepare the challah, and we will have instructions. We're providing all the flour, all the ingredients, talking about how you make it, how you braid the bread, and then with the hope that people will then go home and they'll bake the bread the next day, and they'll have a Shabbat meal for the Sabbath that night with the bread that they've made. Again, a great way
is
of
this a
bringing the
competition,
community.
or is this just a learning experience?
It's just a learning, fun experience.
And that also is at it's at Mount Zion Temple
Mount Zion.
in St. Paul, and that's on November 14th at 5:30.
Yes.
So you don't want to come off half-baked. You want to come off.
Right.
You want to come off full-baked, and for people who want to enjoy a particularly enjoyable bread, challah bread is really exceptionally delicious and really one of the best breads.
Right, and if you can, if you eat only one loaf on Friday, my suggestion is wait and then make French toast, because there's nothing like challah French toast, which is just delicious.
That's true. That's true. Having been there and done that. I can say. Now, you talk about your connection with Israel, and I think we have to differentiate here, because your connection with Israel, as I understand it, is with the people of Israel and the settlers of Israel, not necessarily with the government of Israel or the party that's in power at the moment. At the moment, there is nobody in power.
Right.
Netanyahu, and I'm certainly outspoken, I've never been a fan of his, is out right now, and I think General Benny Gantz is trying to form a government then under their peculiar system of government.
Right.
And at the moment, nobody has a majority, so they're basically just treading water. But is it fair to say that you don't get involved in the political aspect of it, you get involved in the humanitarian aspect of it?
So we're not a political organization, and we don't take sides with regards to Israeli politics. What we care about is the social service needs of the Israeli people. And so we partner with agencies such as the Jewish Agency for Israel, which is responsible for a lot of the social service programs that Israelis need. Israel's doing very well as a country economically, and there's the startup nation. And people often say, well, why are there needs in Israel? Well, we live in the richest country in the world, and yet we still have needs of people that are unmet, and we try and meet those needs.
People would be surprised to learn that there are Israelis who are in need and who are poor and who don't have the basics of enjoying life, just as you just said, in really every aspect of living throughout the country. There's also an Arab population in Israel that suffers perhaps even more because of the schism between the two sides there and what's gone down for generations. And I know that the Federation also assists in that regard.
Yeah, so there are lots of really wonderful organizations in Israel that serves both the Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs, as well as Palestinians who live in the West Bank and Gaza. I've had the privilege of going to Israel probably close to a dozen times now, and I've visited many of the agencies. One of them that stands out is this organization called the Jordan Valley Camp. And it's an incredible camp focused on children with serious medical needs. And I've gone there and I've seen that children, not only Israeli children, but children from Gaza and children from the West Bank or Judea and Samaria also attend this camp. They don't discriminate. They meet the needs of the children. At the end of the day, Israelis, and I think most people realize, there has to be a solution, and the way to achieve that solution is by interacting more with each other and getting to know each other and serving the needs of the people there.
I mean, you could carry that over into government in this country right now, which has become so partisan that the other side immediately raises hackles on one, and we don't seem to be communicating with each other. But here in the Jordan Valley situation, they actually do. They're in it to help these children, these needy children, children who are ill. And that's what life should really be about, which takes me back to people who spend their lives in nonpartisan and civic ventures like yours, and it's so commendable, I think. Now, I understand that the Federation has some sort of an alliance with law enforcement. Explain that to us.
Well, our alliance with law enforcement is really through our partnership with the Jewish Community Relations Council, so that they have been designated as the lead agency to look at or building relationships with law enforcement and to also oversee the physical and security needs of the Twin Cities Jewish community. So in partnership with the JCRC and the Minneapolis Federation, there's a counter to the St. Paul Federation, and other interested parties, we're working together to address what are the security needs of the Jewish community. During the high holidays that we just celebrated, it was a major concern of how are we going to keep our congregations, our members, feeling safe so that they will attend services. And again, we've built some wonderful relations with law enforcement, and what we're learning about also keeping our own communities safe. Here's where we're building relationships. We're also reaching out to other faith communities who have been the target of hate crimes and educating them and sharing our expertise with them about how do they keep their own institutions and their own members
particularly
feeling
Muslim
safe.
communities at this time.
Especially Muslim communities.
Yeah, and sad to say that Jewish synagogues and places of worship, more often than not, have either police or armed security guards there. It's sort of a sad commentary on the times we live in, but then we know that anti-Semitism in the last several years has really spiked to a large degree in this country and throughout the world.
Yeah. Well, Sunday we are going to commemorate the 1-year anniversary since the Pittsburgh shooting, which left 11 Jews murdered.
Tree of Life Synagogue.
Tree of Life Synagogue. The deadliest attack of Jews on U.S. soil. And the ramifications of that are still being felt.
And interestingly enough, that synagogue is home to 3 different Jewish communities.
Yep.
You know, one very conservative, one reform, and I guess one very orthodox.
Yep.
And all in that one place. And they all suffered victims in that shooting.
Yes.
And it's just a year ago this Sunday, this being October 25th.
Right.
Yeah.
And there will be a national, international recognition of this horrific event. and there will be moments of silence. And it's something that we just have to be cognizant of, not only in the United States, but around the world. We saw it on Yom Kippur in Germany, where there was a shooter.
Amazing that a young man armed with rifles and bombs tried to break into a Jewish synagogue in Germany, in a small city in Germany. One was unable to get in, and he killed 2 people in the street. I don't even know that those people were Jewish. I've never seen any follow-up on that as to were, but I suspect that they weren't parishioners there. They were just people who were passing in the street, and he was so deranged that he killed them because he couldn't break into the synagogue, which had protected itself by locking its doors.
Yeah, very sad commentary of this, of the times that we're living in.
And you know, it's a long cry from when I grew up. We seem to have prejudices, but we're a more tolerant society, in this country at least. World War II, you would think, left really never again philosophy in the minds of people, but it seems to be fading with the times. Maybe it has something to do with the belligerent really administrations that run several governments, including this one. But it's a sad commentary on all of us as human beings.
Yeah, you know, I often talk to people, and we use the term tolerance of people, and I try to explain the word that we really should be using is acceptance rather than tolerance, because the term tolerance almost implies a differential of power. Only those with power can tolerate those without power, as opposed to acceptance, where it creates a sense of equality, that we are on the same level. Someone who without power never has to tolerate the person with power. And we need to start, people are so afraid of losing what perceived power that they have. And if we can go more to the idea of let's accept people and appreciate all that they have to offer.
We're not on this earth that long that really, that it would make any sense to live a bigoted, prejudiced life. And it's something that escapes me, unfortunately. We have a little less than a minute left. Do you have a message that you would like to conclude this interview with?
Sure. One, I welcome anyone within the Jewish community or outside the Jewish community to reach out to me. One of the pleasures of my position is to meet new people, to be out there, introduce them to opportunities to get engaged within the St. Paul Jewish community. There are many of them, and here we are.
We didn't know each other 4 months ago.
Right, right. St. Paul, I've lived in many, many communities, worked for many organizations, and the St. Paul Jewish Federation is just an incredible agency. The people who are involved, the volunteers, the board members, the donors, wonderful people, and love to add more to
Ted
those.
Flaum, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for looking in. We'll be with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.